Good morning, guys. My name is Danny, and I will be giving you today's webinar. I hope all of you are doing great today. It's the end of the week, so let's finish it up. Wonderful. Um, Today, I'm going to be showing you all about contracts from the very beginning of how to upload them, to modify them, set them up so that you can send them successfully to where you can reach them, where you can modify last finished touches before sending out the email or the offer, and as well what products contain that feature. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. Remember, for those of you that have been in a previous webinar with me, remember you can always ask questions whenever you need. If you have a doubt, if I'm going too fast, if you can't hear me okay, anything, please let me know so that I can go back and explain everything more calm because I may go a little fast. You guys know how I am. Okay, so remember that REIFax, or yeah, REIFax, we're not investors or realtors, so we don't provide any type of documents. So if you're not with a real estate association that they provide you with the contracts, we suggest you always, or actually I suggest you always to go to AltaStar if you don't have blank PDF contracts in your computer. So that you can send your offer successfully. So the first thing, I did get a sample contract, and I have several over here, but don't look at my mess that I have here. um, so I got a blank PDF contract in my computer, and I can click on Add Docs. Notice that I went to Settings, Documents, and then Add Docs over here. So I can go into as is contract, and then I'm just going to click agree, and it's going to upload it. So let's say, for instance, and now that I have you guys here, and I'm on this tab, as soon as it finishes, I'm going to clean all this out because this is seriously a mess. If you messed up on the contract, you want to upload, you want to delete it, or you want to undo anything, you can do that on REIFax. You can delete contracts, because there's sometimes that you upload a contract for a one time only for a property, and then you just want to take it off the system. You could do that. You can select the contract, and I'm going to show you where you can delete it. So I think it's this one. So I'm going to grab this one, and I'm just going to click delete because I honestly don't know what it is, and I would want to clean all this out. Of course, after you do delete, you can't undo it, and we have no way of reaching into those contracts, okay? The ones that you upload and you want to delete. So look that I did upload. These are from an association, so I cannot delete them because they are uploaded internally from VFX. But the ones that I do upload, like the As Is or the FAR release and cancellation contract, I can delete them. But the rest, the ones that are uploaded internally from REIFax, you're unable to delete them. Okay, so let's go ahead and modify this one. Let's start. So if you say, for example, you have a two different as is contracts for different motives. It could be for uh, like we see here, for an investor as seller, or for let me see, what's the other one? For a homeowner, you can modify the different contracts and upload it as many times as you want. So let's say I'm going to put over here so that I can identify it as number one. Apart from that, it gives you the option of adding two different buyers or sellers. Let's say that you're going to be the wholesaler, so you could use it as a buyer over here so you don't have to paste it in. And you can also add the seller here. So whenever you want it active or inactive, notice how it switches. Okay, so for instance, Danny Dominguez, and then over here, 123 North. Um, okay, okay. So once I do, why do you have to fill in the buyer information so that it automatically populates in your contract whenever you generate it? Remember that we're trying to take as much work from your shoulders as possible. So the ideal is that you um, automate everything and fill in all the default information so that you don't have to go back and do it each time you generate a contract. So all of this is just going to generate automatically. So now I'm going to proceed to scroll down and notice that I have additional info. You could select in the acceptance days. And remember, this is from the moment you send the contract. So let's say, for instance, I put over here 15. So it's if I send the contract tomorrow, January 30th, it's going to send 15 days from tomorrow, even if you schedule it out. If I schedule the contract to go out on, for example, on February 5th, it's going to send out that day, and the acceptance days is going to show 15 days after. Same thing for closing days and inspection days. So make sure you do fill in all the defaults, okay? And then these little or this little square at the bottom, very few people see it. And I've been asked a lot of questions of where can they add the addition, where can you send the contract and a proof of funds or the LBPD or any additional document. This is where you add it. You have to, if you have 5 different contracts, you have to upload it 5 different times if you want it for all of the contracts. Why don't you add it here with the rest of the contracts? Because let's say, for instance, that you're going to send an offer and you want to send along the proof of funds with the contract. So if you upload the proof of funds over here, like an additional document, for example, this LBPD, let's say this is an example of a proof of funds. If I upload it here, I'm only going to be able to send either the LBPD or the contract. And the ideal is that you submit both, okay? Uh, of course, it's optional, but the ideal is that you send in the PDF the contract and below the additional document, regardless of which one it is. So remember, if you're going to have 5 different contracts in there for the different scenarios of properties you're going to be offering on, remember you have to upload the 5 different additional documents each time for all of the contracts. Okay. So over here, I'm going to click add. It's going to go to my computer. I'm going to click open, agreed. Remember, if I'm going too fast, let me know so that I can slow down and explain a little better, okay? I'm going to make sure this is, let's say, the little letters that we never read at the bottom of the contract. So you always have to select as default the checkbox so that it's automatically checked when you're going to send the offer. And I'm going to show you afterwards where you're going to see that, okay? And why is it useful like this. And then you're going to select what additional document it is. So there is a checkbox for earnest money deposit, proof of funds, or additional document. This is not an earnest money deposit or a proof of funds. So I'm going to select additional document. Why is it important to check one of these 3 checkboxes? Because when you send the contract with the additional documents and you have those boxes checked off, it's going to check off over here. Notice that you have these circles in your follow-up. So it says contract, of course. If you send the contract, it's always going to check this circle. But if you don't have the additional document um, selected, or I'm sorry, yeah, the additional document identified, it's not going to let you know that you have signed either proof of funds, earnest money deposit, or an additional document. So notice that for this example, I sent the contract and an additional document. If I scroll down, notice that I've got contract over here and proof of funds and an additional document. Okay, so you got to make sure that you select all of them, or yeah, select all of them so that they're identified of what you have sent to each property. Now, going back into the contract edition, if I scroll down, you can add as many additional documents as you want as well. I always suggest, or actually not me, the system for the additional documents not to be too many pages. I have seen errors that the contract is actually not sent because a contract is 12 pages, for example. A type of contract is 12 pages, and then the additional document is 50. I was like, no, you can't send it because um, you're going over the server capacity and it just explodes. Let's just say that. So try to make sure that the additional document is simple, no greater than, let's say, 5 pages, so that it sends out with ease. Okay. So what I already clicked saved. So if remember that you can delete the contract if you're interested, or let's go into edit document. So this is where we're going to actually edit the contract and set it up how we want it. So I'm going to show you two ways. The really slow and boring, annoying way, and I'm going to show you a really fast and easy way. Okay? So the first way that you can set up your contract is this box over here is for the variables. Remember, like I said a few minutes ago, RealFX, what it does, or we're here, is to make your life much simpler, automated, and take as much work from your shoulders as possible. So it's important to fill in as many variables, or try to put in as many variables as possible, so that everything populates automatically and you just have to do a few clicks to actually send out your contract. Okay, so over here, I first select a space in the contract, and then I'm going to, for example, this is the seller. I'm going to look for seller. Um, okay, I'm going to select seller name, and then I'm going to select at the bottom buyer name. And what is going in the buyer name? Pop quiz, the information that I filled in here. So I'm going to go put it, paste it here, and you can drag it with your mouse or mouse pad. And then over here, so we have street, address, city, and zip code. So I'm going to click there again. But since we want this contract to go out pretty and all set up, I'm going to show you, instead of pasting each variable of, for example, property address, and then property city, oh, property zip code. Okay. Since RealFX does not, let's say, edit. Once you paste in the variables, even if the text or the property address is shorter or longer, the variables are going to be maintained there. So this way may not work for you, or it may work for some properties, but for the properties that have a long address or a long city, it's going to overlap the text, and we don't want to go back and edit each variable each time, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select the variable. I'm going to delete all of them, and I'm going to go into this add text box, and I'm going to select variables over here, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to do the same thing I did over there, but I'm going to do it here. There we go. Remember to put in the spaces and then property zip code. Okay, so like this, the text is not going to overlap regardless of the length of the property address or city. That way, it's going to give itself the space needed. Located in, and then I'm going to select over here the property county in the center. And then property tax ID. The property tax ID, remember, is the folio number. There we go. And then for real property, the legal description is generally over here. Like I said, REIFX does not know when the text is too long or too short. There are times when the legal description is really short. The property, I don't know. I don't know a property legal description, honestly. But let's say, for instance, it's really short. REIFX is going to paste it in normal. I mean, you could select, sorry. You could select the variable legal description, and cool. So I'm going to paste it over here so that I have more chances of filling in this whole second line, right? But it's not going to break down the text in case it breaks into two spaces, into the two lines, 10 and 11. So what I would suggest you to do, or actually REIFX customer service, what we suggest you to do, and it's completely legal, is to add a text over here as in public records. And that's just going to take any, it's just going to paste the legal, it's not going to paste anything there. It's going to be the text as in public records, and it's completely legal, it's normal, and it's perfect. You don't have to worry in the spaces in the contract, the words overlapping, the legal description going off the contract or getting cut off. So you could just put as in public records, and it's completely okay. Then over here, if we scroll down, we're going to have the purchase price, which is, of course, the listing price. Oh, there we go. It added it at the top. Then we have the initial deposit. So we have the variable for all of this. Now, in the case of the contract not having, for example, or REIFX, sorry, not having for, oh, okay, I'll give you this example afterwards. Do you guys have any questions so far? You could let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, or actually, I don't go too slow. But if I'm doing okay, if you guys have any questions or doubts, okay? I'm going to continue pasting the escrow information by the name. Escrow agent. Escrow email. And I'm doing this because I want to show you guys something really quick and fast. Okay. So if ReFX does not have the data, of course, in order to, even if you have the variable there, if we don't have the data, it will be blank. It's not going to show the variables, of course. The variables are, let's say, see-through or clear. They're not going to populate if we don't have the data. Let's say, for instance, that we don't have, that there's no closing date, for example, and it's just going to leave the space blank. Okay. If you haven't filled in the escrow information in your settings, it's not going to populate anything, even if you have the variable there, because we don't have the data to populate the variable or the information that the variable is requiring. Okay, so you don't have to worry about oh, okay, so I don't have the escrow information. I have to delete the variables. No, you don't have to delete them. You can leave it on, and if ReFX does not have the data, it's not going to populate. Okay, so like I said, this is the, let's say, hard and annoying way of actually populating the contract. Okay. Um, but you can, let's say, uh, okay, actually, before that, I'm going to go to the page. Okay, this page is fine. So there are parts in the contract where you want to, that you need to check the box, right? You don't have to do it manually. You could click on the page, and of course, with that little icon over here or the circle with the X, you can fill it in. Okay, you can do that as well as going, I think it's page 10. Let's see. Oh, it's loading at the bottom. Okay. Actually, I think it is. Okay, in this part of additional terms. When you, there are sometimes that you put in the contract, as I've seen, clauses at the very end. I mean, in the additional terms, in from 27 or 572 on, you add additional things to the contract. Now, this is really important for you to know. If you're going to add a text, for example, on the line, you would have to type on this line. And if the text is too long, you would have to break it in two so that if the, for example, you can't do this. Okay, you cannot do that. It's not going to paste. It's going to paste it over here, but it's not going to populate it in your, when you actually generate the contract. So what you're going to do, if you want 2, 3, 5, 6, 10 lines, you would have to go and do the 10 times add text with the different information. Now, make sure that whatever you type goes inside of the lines so that, of course, it just stays between the parameters. And if you're going to, like I said, you're going to write, you want to write in the next lines, you would have to, for each line, create a text box. Okay. And that's really important because you can get, and if you, like I said, you type in with an enter, the contract may give you an error or it just won't populate anything at all. Because I've had, for example, users that say, hey, Danny, I wrote 5 lines of additional terms and they didn't populate when I actually sent the contract. Okay, so let's verify the template. And in effect, they had 5 lines typed in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they didn't populate, of course. Okay. Guys, remember, if you have any questions, doubts, let me know. Okay. So I clicked on the little I so that we could preview how the text is going or the contract is going. And this is, of course, without the variable. It's going to paste in or populate all the information, and we're going to see this afterwards, after we finish the actual contract. So it's going to replace the variables with the ReaFax data. Notice how the checkbox is there. Okay, so we notice that when we verify or do the preview, we got to move the different variables to its place because they're out of places. Let's go to page 11 and see. Okay. See how this generated a small error? Notice how over here it's, remember I clicked space, I'm sorry, enter. And when I clicked preview, look how it views over here. So this is not good. And this time it populated like this. There are times that it doesn't even populate at all. So make sure that if you're going to write in different lines, you would have to add the different box for each line. Okay. And in the case of actually doing a, for example, oh, did it eliminate? Oh, no, it's loaded. In the case of needing to do a math operation, you could do it here. You select the variable, you select the type of operation, and the value. And once you add all of these two and the value, it's going to calculate everything for you automatically. But this usually is not used because ReaFax actually calculates, for example, the listing price, initial deposit, and it calculates the final balance to close automatically. Okay. And then I did explain everything except this drop down and this last icon, right? So if you integrate or if you import into your file or ReaFax account your signatures, you could paste them here as well. For example, I pasted it up here. I can scroll down and add my signature into the box, or my initial, sorry. Same thing for the last page. I can click over here and I'm going to add my signature. It's a really nice signature, right? Don't envy me, guys. And you could just paste it here. When you want to paste in the date, you add the variable. Don't actually type it in. Remember, we're trying to make your life much simpler. So you're going to look for the variable today's date so that it generates the date that you actually send out the contract. Even if you schedule it, like I said, you can schedule it for February 5th. It's going to send out with the date of February 5th. Okay. And then if you're finished, you could just click save at the bottom. As soon as it finishes saving, okay, you'd close and save over here. So we saved our contract successfully, right? But I'm going to go back, and since I didn't finish filling it in, I'm going to go back to edit. And what I just showed you is the long way. You can cut short, and there's actually a word for that. It you got it. What we're gonna do right now, it's a shortcut so that you can modify simple things, and ReaFax just generates all what we did over here manually. It will do it automatically. So when you go into this last icon, it's a templates manager. So over here we have this ReFX General. Once you upload a contract into ReFX from your computer, and you don't want to fill it in manually because there's 12 pages, you could go into the templates manager, look for the ReFX General, and you can click apply. And I'm going to show you the final results. It's beautiful. Okay. So depending on the contract, of course, the variables, because this template was created based on a different contract. But depending on the contract you have, the variables will be a little moved or may not be moved. So all you need to do is just move the variables to its place, but you have them there already. Remember that we said we were going to take this out. I'm just going to leave it there. Then you could take that out and put as in public records. Remember that. You'll remember Danny. And then all we need to do is just drag the variables to its place. Okay. So that ReFX, what we did right now is just make your life so much simpler and just generated everything for you, right? So over here, phone, email. You may take a little time, um, let's say, moving things to its place, but it's going to be much less time than actually filling it in manually. Now, remember that you only have to do this once. You don't have to do this each time you're going to send out a contract. So this is something that you're not going to be doing very frequently. You may be modifying. This is the first time touches. And this is, of course, you would have to do this for each contract. But you only have to do it once. You don't have to go in each time and do it. Okay? So it's a one-time thing. And then we go to the next page. We see nothing. I think it was this page. Oh, there we go. For the case or the scenario of actually having of, for example, importing 5 different as-is contracts, we could go back into the templates manager, and after we have finished fixing this contract up, the current one, with a template or manually, whichever, you can click add new. For example, Danny's temp. And after you have fit in all the variables into its place, you could save the template, and all you have to do for each of the rest of the contracts, instead of filling them in manually or moving around the variables with our template, all you need to do is go back. I'm going to, for example, close this. I could go back, open up another contract. I can open up the templates manager. Let's let it load a second. Uh-oh. I think ReFX knows it's Friday, right? Okay. So after I uploaded my secondary contract, it's just an example, and I don't want to do it, I don't want to fill it in manually, suppose it's the case. All I need to do is just go into the templates manager and look for the template that I just created, Danny's temp, right? And I can just click apply, and it's going to apply the same template that we just fixed. Isn't that wonderful? So I just did your life like 5 times much simpler by, of course, notice that we didn't modify the other template, but if you modify the first template and save it, once you paste it in your second or third or 10th contract, it's going to paste it in as is, and you don't have to modify anything. You're welcome. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go back into my first as is contract. And that is the way of making your making everything much simpler. Okay. We could go into this part. Okay. Notice how all of them are alone. And of course, remember this is the REFX general clauses, okay? The REFX general template, the clauses that we added as default, but you can modify them or I'm sorry, you can't modify them, but you can delete them if you would like, okay? So let's say we're finished with this contract. I'm gonna go ahead and close. Apart from modifying the contract, and after you're finished with everything, make sure you have your signatures uploaded, okay? Both signatures and initials. You could upload them in JPEG or PNG with a white background. The background transparent images are not compatible. For example, that the initials are free with no background, it's not going to work. So you have to make sure that the JPEG or the PNG, that the file is in format JPEG or PNG, sorry. And then the last thing apart from that, I would suggest you to modify your escrow information if you want it. If not, you could just leave it open. You can modify both, or you can have 2 different escrow agents. Okay. And that's the last thing on how to set up your contracts. Now, where can we send them from? There is 2 ways, or actually there's a lot of ways, but I'm going to show you 2 ways, either from the overview of a property or from the follow-up system. So I'm going to go into the search, and I'm going to make a really random search. For those who know me, know that I always search in 33325. I have no idea why. And wait for it. Okay. And I'm going to select this property. I know it's by owner. It's okay, because remember, I'm not going to be actually sending out a contract to an agent. I would be sending a false offer, and I don't want that. And I click from the overview, send docs. Now, when you click send docs from the overview, it's going to send the document from the overview. It's going to take you to the document manager. Remember that the buyer information is going to populate automatically. Okay. We have the as is contracts number 1 in the drop down. You can select it. And remember when I said in the additional document part of the contracts manager in settings that you have to check the additional document? It's because of this. Because every time you generate or you open up a contract, it's going to automatically have checked the additional document that you want. So if you don't want to send it out, you just uncheck it, okay? But if you're always going to, or generally most of the time, going to be sending it out as an additional document attached to your contract, you could just leave it by default checked. Okay, and then notice that it has the additional document checkbox as well filled in, because we did that in the settings as default. So as a seller's agent, I'm just going to put REFX, and then for the agent's email, I'm going to put refx@gmail.com. Over here, I can select, since I don't have for this contract any escrow, or I'm sorry, in ReFX in my settings over here, I don't have any escrow agent. So in, sorry, in my escrow information over here, it doesn't have any drop down, okay? But it, like I said, if the variable is still in there, it won't generate anything because it has nothing to generate, right? Over here at the bottom. Customize documents fonts. You can modify the fonts and you can check the font that you want, the size, and you could change it into black, white, or blue. I wouldn't suggest you to put a white font though. Laugh with me. And then you can modify it for your additional documents as well. Okay. Um, over here, since I didn't modify this document, I'm going to show you how it actually populates. Okay, I'm going to click preview. Oh. And notice how everything populates automatically with simple clicks. Remember that I went through, I took a little more time than a simple fix because I went through making sure that you guys understand everything step by step. But remember that I told you if you leave the legal description, it may be cut off the page if it's longer than normal. Well, here we go. Here's a perfect example. Notice how it goes off the contract. So the best thing that I suggest you to do is eliminate that variable and put as in public records. And you just don't have that headache anymore, okay? See how it generates or populates everything for you. The listing price, initial deposit, and the closing price. If you were to have an additional deposit, it will calculate based as well on that. Notice that the closing date is based on the default that I have predetermined for that contract. And if I scroll down as well, it's going to paste in today's date. Voila. We good? Okay. Let's say, for instance, that I want to modify this contract for this property. There's no one-time modification for a contract or for a property in particular. So, but, what you could do without going into settings and doing all of the process again, what you could do before sending the contract is edit contract over here. Now you have to know and be clear that the modifications or the edits on the contract that you select are going to overwrite the base template. So like I said, there's no one-time modification for a particular property. If let's say you change the clauses for this particular property, you would have to go back and modify them if you don't want that clause to go out for all of the properties in general. Okay, so you could just click yes, and it will take you to the contract manager just like in settings, but you don't have to take the time to go into settings, documents, select the contract, etc. Okay, so over here, it's the same process. You can go to the page that you would like. Oh. To the page that you would like and modify whatever you need to modify for this particular property. But remember, you have to, or actually you have to remember to go back and modify it if you don't want that to go out for all of the properties or for all of your offers. Okay, and then you can download and you could just email. And that if you want to see a full video on how to send contracts or send offers from the overview of or the follow-up system, you can check out the videos that we have in the help section or the previous webinars. topics that are more in detail. Okay, so this is how you send it from the overview, and then from the follow-up, you could select the property and click docs. If you have a small screen or a smaller resolution, for example, oh, I don't think that's gonna help. Oh yeah, it does, actually. That's what I want. Okay. Let's say, for example, that you have a bigger resolution of the screen or a smaller screen. You're not going to see send docs, or yeah, docs. You're going to see send. And that drop down is going to give you all of the things that you could send. You're going to click send docs. Okay. I'm going to put it in 80 because it looks much better. Okay. Oh, it didn't modify the screen. Okay. And same thing over here. You can modify the additional information, buyer information, agent's info, escrow, fonts, font for documents, and additional documents. Okay, um, guys, this is how you could send. It's the same thing from the follow-up, from the overview. It's the same process. Either way, if you guys have any questions or doubts in regards to how to send an offer, you could give us a call, send us a right through the live chat, or send us an email so that we can help you out. Remember, you can request coaching sessions, and always take a look in the control panel at the greenhouse at the top left. You can have the help section and webinars. So the help section are really short videos of particular parts of the system, like each particular button and what each thing does. And the webinars are much more extended, like 45 minutes. If you have any questions, doubts, let us know. If you have any questions in regards to the today's webinar, give us a call. If you would want a request for me, go ahead and do it. I'm available for you, and I want to thank you for accompanying me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you don't have any further question, and successful end of the week. Bye, guys. Thank you.